Hi there, everybody. This is Lee, and I've been looking at the Berniecrats list again. It's just still continuing to be updated. We had four primaries. Our four final primaries were a couple of days ago, and so the Berniecrats list has been updated to incorporate the last remaining primary. And as it stands, they're saying that 316 Berniecrats have won their primary races, 316 out of 472. And that puts the wins at 66.95%. Let's call it 67%. And so I went through and I kind of said, it looks like, I'm not sure if it's completely up to date, if every win has been registered in here, but I would say most of them have. I think there might be a few remaining, like there are some that I think need to be investigated to see whether the person won, because it might actually get them all the way up to 67%. But still, 3 out of 4, 70%, nearly, almost. That's pretty good odds. I'm looking through and I did a quick calculation. I was trying to figure out how many Berniecrats were in the pipeline to go to the general election. How many have won their primaries or made it through and will be on the ballot for this November? They're Berniecrats, they're Bernie leaning, they support Bernie Sanders. They either that or they support our revolution, which is basically progressive. I wanted to see how many of those would be on their way to the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. How many of them have made it through their first hurdle and will be on the ballot and potentially might go into the U.S. House or Senate? And so I counted, and it looks like 47 Berniecrats will be on the ballot for the U.S. House, 47, and that 7 Berniecrats will be on the ballot for the U.S. Senate, and these are in various states. So potentially 47 additions on Bernie's column to the U.S. House, and then 7 to the U.S. Senate. I'm also looking at write-in candidates too. And so when I add in the write-in candidates, looks like there's 9 additional Berniecrats running as write-ins. And so they'll be on the ballot as write-in candidates. And so counting the write-ins and the people who won their primaries, there'll be 56 Berniecrats in the pipeline available on the ballot for voting to go into the U.S. House, various states. And then there'll be 9, if you count in the Senate candidates that won their primaries, and then add in the write-in Senate candidates, there'll be a total of 9. There'll be a total of 9. Make this update here. 9 candidates on the ballot for U.S. Senate between the write-ins and the primary winners. So it'll change the makeup, make it a little bit more progressive. The voters have to participate, of course, but it's all very interesting and intriguing. Definitely come January, we may see a U.S. Congress that's more in line with Bernie Sanders' way of thinking rather than Donald Trump's or even Hillary Clinton's or Gary Johnson's. There'll be a Bernie-leaning U.S. Congress or U.S. Senate. So it's fun to think about. I've been looking at some specific races and how that might affect certain states. I looked at Colorado, for instance. Colorado went for Bernie Sanders almost 2-1. He won by a large margin. However, the superdelegates went for Hillary Clinton, and that's kind of intriguing how that worked out. So it's the establishment that was pro Hillary Clinton. The people themselves lean towards Bernie Sanders, more of a progressive viewpoint. There's a Green candidate for Senate who endorsed for Bernie Sanders and is a Berniecrat. Likely, as I've said in other previous videos, that the Greens rise wherever there is a need for progressive politics. Colorado has issues with their environment, with fossil fuels, with the decriminalization of marijuana, things like this that are specifically of concern in this region. The outlook of political independence. And so you have a Republican candidate for senator. You have a Democratic candidate for senator. And then you have a Green. And the Green is Aaron McConey, who is, without a shadow of a doubt, against Trans-Pacific Partnership, against fracking, is against expansion of fossil fuel industry. The fact that the Green is in the race is because the Democratic candidate has shown themselves flexible, and not even just that, the governor has shown himself flexible. Tom Hickenlooper was on a short list to join Hillary Clinton on her candidate for president, meaning he was compatible with Hillary Clinton, not as much Bernie Sanders. Tom Hickenlooper, the governor. There's issues, like I mentioned, with fracking, where you have the political establishment, the people holding political office, voting down the citizens of Colorado who are attempting to place a moratorium on fracking in the state. The politicians are fighting against the citizens on behalf of corporate interests. So that's the scenario you see in Colorado. That's why you see the Greens rising. It's not just Aaron McConey for U.S. Senate. You also have Robert Lee Worthy, who is a Green running for U.S. House of Representatives, the 6th District. And then many other Berniecrats in the state of Colorado. It looks like there's maybe 18. There were 20 candidates overall, and then maybe 18 won their primaries. And so they're headed to the November ballot. But that's one race. And you go to North Dakota, and I've spoken about Chase Iron Eyes before. The fact that he's running for the U.S. House in the state of North Dakota. The fact that he is very involved with what's happening with the Sioux Nation, protection of the environment, the water, the soil, the Standing Rock area. He's been active with Lakota Law. He's in the race as U.S. representative candidate at large. He's a Berniecrat. He endorsed for Bernie Sanders. He's spoken with Bernie Sanders in Washington on the issue of the Dakota Access Pipeline. These are local politics, and you see a situation where the citizens of an area are actually fighting not only their own politicians that are holding office now, but also law enforcement, and then outside corporate interests that have come up from Texas in order to dominate outside the state. And I explored that a little bit, saying how can this be, this concept of eminent domain? How can an outside force come in and start trashing someone else's state? And our Federal Energy Regulation Commission assists with that. Law enforcement assists with that. Our National Guard assists with that. And then they fight the citizens. And so where these situations occur, you have candidates that rise up in opposition. Chase Iron Eyes is running as a Democrat. And like I said before, progressives who work for the people rather than for corporate interests that lean towards Bernie Sanders or towards Jill Stein, they're rising up to represent the people, not the corporations. And so, specifically, they're rising up in areas where there's a need to have this type of representation, where the corporations are attempting to dominate and subjugate the citizens with the cooperation of local politicians. You see that in Michigan as well, where there's, including Jill Stein, I think there's 33 or 34 Green candidates in Michigan rising up because of the trade deals that have decimated communities, and then also the drinking water, which has become contaminated. All these issues that have been harmful, the public health, harmful, directly harmful to the citizens, and then to the economy as well. And it's the local politicians who allowed it to happen or even participated for their own reason. The Greens are rising up. And so it's good to keep track of the local races, as well as what's happening at the top of the ticket. Definitely, the U.S. Congress is trending towards a populist viewpoint. I mean, that's happening on the right side of the aisle and then the left side of the aisle, too. Populism is winning the day down ballot. Populism is also winning the day at the top of the ticket. Definitely during a Democratic primary, there was such a rise of populism, people-focused politics, that it actually took corruption and crime, election fraud, voter suppression to beat it down. But it's still there. It hasn't gone away. It's still exhibiting itself. It's revealing itself. The people are rising up. They're becoming informed, and they're going to the ballot box to make their positions known. This is happening on the left and the right. And so we don't really know what's going to happen between now and November. At least I don't. But we can only keep track of what the facts are as they occur and what's happening on the ground. Definitely Jill Stein is winning a lot of support for a reason. The Green Party has made so many advances from 2012, definitely from 2000 when Ralph Nader ran as the Green. Years later, we have Jill Stein, and they're receiving a lot of interest. She's made records with her ballot access, with her fundraising, media access, with all the activism that she's been able to accomplish, the attention that she's been able to bring to her platform, and then the fact that she's had so much influence on the public discussion, and that she's weathered so many media and political attacks, and been able to meet them head on and just explain her party's philosophy credibly in many arenas. The word is spreading, and there's a reason for that. So things are happening. Whether Bernie Sanders will emerge as the head of the Democratic Party, I don't know that either. Although there's been talk of that happening. Whether Elizabeth Warren or Tim Kaine or Joe Biden take over at the top of the ticket of the Democratic Party, it's a good question. The fact that there's even this question being asked is just a revelation of the turmoil that's occurring within the Democratic Party. There's just a lot of confusion, it seems, that where the Democratic Party has reached that famous fork in the road. They don't know if they want to go to a future or if they want to remain in the past. But life is passing them by. Certainly the Green Party is emerging as a direct result of their floundering. The Republican Party is emerging in the polls, and the Libertarian Party has emerged. And it looks like the Libertarian Party is actually gaining interest and support of people who would otherwise vote for Hillary Clinton. So lots going on. No telling where it's going to end up. I do know that if Bernie Sanders does join the discussion, the debate at the top of the ticket, the voters will be the winner of any four-way debate in which he participates. If we have Jill Stein in a debate at the top of the ticket with Bernie Sanders, with Donald Trump, with Gary Johnson, definitely an anti-establishment slate of presidential candidates who want to speak on issues that have been neglected up until now. We, the voters, would emerge the winners. How people would eventually cast a vote is unknown, but definitely we'd all have something to think about at the top of the ticket and at the bottom of the ticket too.